Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 111 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly series that drops every Sunday where you guys ask me questions in the comment section below, and each week I try and do my very best to answer them for you. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below. We've got loads of great questions to go through this week. Loads about the Book of Boba Fett, obviously, because it's a hot topic right now, which is absolutely fine. I'm actually loving the show. Before we do get onto that, I do want to say a massive thank you to my latest Patreon supporters, Chris and Charles. Thank you so much. Your support is greatly appreciated, and of course it does help me make more and better videos. And I also wanted to express a big thank you to a Patreon supporter called Matthew Neef, who actually sent me a gift box which I wasn't able to show on a video. And in that gift box was a CD of his music, which is pretty cool, and also this lovely Bossk t-shirt here. I can't really get it all in camera, but I will wear it on a live stream that I'll do in the very near future. So it's like a Bossk. That is awesome. So thank you so much for that, mate. And also in that package was some other little like droid bits and stuff like that for my son, little Bossk. So thank you for thinking of him as well, Matthew. I really, really do appreciate your generosity. So thanks once again. All right then, if you do happen to enjoy the video, please leave a like on the video because it really does help the video and the channel. And with all that being said, let's get straight on to the first question. This is No Cave asks, has Hasbro clarified if the VC219 Death Watch Mandalorian and the TVC Pipeline reveal Mandalorian Airborne Trooper, shown as a Clone Wars still, are different figures? And on the topic of the TVC Death Watch Mandalorian, what do you think of the possibility of a Death Watch Mando troop builder pack with Mandalorian with different markings as seen in the Chapter 8 flashback scene? Alright then, so from what I understand, they are two different figures. One of them is from the Mandalorian, he's the Death Watch Mandalorian, and of course the other one is from the Clone Wars. If you do go onto Yak Face's website, he has a list of all the upcoming vintage collection figures and what waves they're going to be in and everything, and he has them as two separate figures, and I 100% trust what Jason from Yakface says. In terms of a 4-pack with the Death Watch Mandalorians, I think that's entirely possible. I think it's a perfect one for it really as well. I think everybody's going to love those Death Watch Mandalorians, and the one that you're going to get on the single card is the 2-stripe, which is the one that I believe you see the most of in those flashbacks, but there are some with 3 stripes and maybe even 1 stripe as well. It must be some kind of rank insignia, mustn't it? So that would be awesome if we got a 4-pack of that, and I think these 4-packs are perfect for this sort of thing. Channel member Owen Brown says, my question for next week is, what do you think the chances are of Hasbro reissuing Dengar? I'm hoping they will do it for this year with the Book of Boba Fett now out. Hasbro might want to jump on the bounty hunter hype. All the best for 2022. Thank you so much, Owen, and a happy new year to you too. This just gives me the perfect opportunity to get this guy out. I mean, you know, any opportunity I'd like to show this off. This is the first shot prototype of Dengar VC01. This is one of my favourite pieces in my collection. I got it graded, it got a 90 gold. You can see there, Dengar VC01 first shot prototype 2010 Hasbro. Absolutely awesome, and I think that this is a prime candidate to be reissued. I think it's one of the best figures still in the vintage collection. Really, really, really nice figure. I'm guessing the only possible thing that they could potentially update it with is with ball hinged hips, because he does have those swivel hips, but that's not a major gripe. It's still a wonderful figure, and you're right, with the Book of Boba Fett and the whole bounty hunter thing, you never know, Dengar might even show up in the show, so who knows. Mathieu Herman, I've probably not pronounced that right, my friend, I really do apologise. He says, hi Tim, hope your wife is doing well. Question for next week, do you think that with the release of Obi-Wan this year, we could get not only Obi-Wan from the show, but even from A New Hope? And if we do get a New Hope one, do you think they'll just repack the one from the Hero set and apply photorealistic technology to it? So I kind of think that if we do get a Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original trilogy, it will be this one. This is the Legacy Collection one, and I believe it is the one that was included in that Hero set as well. And to be honest, I wouldn't be too bothered about that. I think it's a really nice figure. It's a good likeness of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think it's a little bit underrated, this figure, to be honest. I haven't had it long loose. I opened it last year from a Legacy pack, and I was really pleasantly surprised how good it was. So you're right, with some photoreal tech on him, I think he would be absolutely fine in the vintage collection. As for the one from the show, then yeah, we're definitely going to be getting Obi-Wan figures this year. That is 100%, and I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that you will get the main character, you will get Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm really interested to see what he's going to look like. I think I can't wait for that figure. I think it'll be awesome. But yeah, of course, with the tie-in with Obi-Wan, it might be a good opportunity for them to get this guy out again onto a vintage card. And of course, it would tick off one of the original 96, which they are continuing on doing. So yeah, fingers crossed they do that. Riley Bob says, question for next week. With the Book of Boba Fett, do you think we'll get an updated Jabba's Palace room playset, updated with the throne for Boba and other updates like the Navarro playset? Also, which TVC number is your little Bossk? I'm sure you've said it, just can't find it. Also, well wishes and prayers for the missus. So second part of your question, I'm guessing you mean the figure that I use in all of my videos, which is this Bossk here. He doesn't have a VC number because he was actually part of the Vintage Saga collection, which was like a prelude to the Vintage collection back in 2006, 2007. Same sort of thing, vintage style cards, but you know, this is one that would need to be sort of pulled through into the actual Vintage collection and given a new number. And it's such a great figure. I don't really think there's too much that it could do to that figure to make it any better. It is a really, really good version of Bossk. But yes, absolutely. In terms of the Jabba's Palace playset, I think we do need the throne. I think we've obviously got the playset with the wall, with the carbonite and everything. What's missing is the throne part of that set. So if there's something that could be an add-on to that, and then of course it could have a dual purpose. As you mentioned, you could have like a throne like this, which would then sit on Jabba's throne. And then as long as you get the Jabba with it, then you're sorted. You've got both parts, haven't you? They should make this interchangeable so you could have both types of throne in the set. That would be awesome. David McFadden says, sending some well wishes to the Bossk household. Question for next week. Do you think we'll get Snowtrooper or Scout Trooper 4-packs? The original Stormtrooper 4-pack is stellar in my opinion. So first of all, David, I'd just like to thank you for the question and to also thank you for supporting my channel for so long. Your name has been in my comment section since almost the very start. And yeah, just thank you so much for that. In terms of your question, I think the Snowtrooper and the Scout Trooper would be, you know, prime candidates for army builders. I just not 100% sure if we've actually got figures that are of the required standard. We look at this one here, the Imperial Stormtrooper in his Hoth battle gear, or the Snowtrooper, and I'm not too sure if I'd be too happy if they put, you know, 4 of those or 3 of those and the Commander or something in a set. I'm not really too sure if I'd be happy with that. I think this guy needs an all new, from the ground up makeover, essentially, a new figure. And I kind of think that might be the case with the Scout Trooper as well. I think the Scout Trooper from the Black Series 3.75 is closer to the required standard, but again, I think they can do so much more with that figure and make it even better before they do a 4-pack. Julia says, question for next week. With all the clone releases that have been happening lately, do you think we're finally going to get some of the much needed villains from the prequels, such as Ventress, Count Dooku, Cad Bane, the Inquisitors, etc.? In my opinion, the Vintage collection needs more villains, especially when it comes to bounty hunters and Force users. Do you think this will be possible even with the new shows coming out? Keep up the great content. So I made a video a while ago now about villains in the Vintage collection. I will put a link up there so you can watch that later, and the thumbnail on the screen right now. But I made a whole video about villains in the Vintage collection and the lack of them. Some of the main villains we still don't have in the Vintage collection. And when you talk about Ventress and Dooku and Cad Bane, you know, these are huge characters that are in multiple different shows, and it's just a crime that we haven't got them already. But I think with all the new shows coming out, I think it sort of diminishes the possibility of us getting those anytime soon. But as you said, we have had a lot of clones, and of course we do need people for them to fight, really, and it would be nice if Hasbro just sort of maybe just slot in one of these villains in one of the waves coming up this year. It'd be nice if they did that. But as we've mentioned, with all the shows coming up, it's very difficult for them to find slots. So, you know, with 2, 3, 4, maybe, I don't know how many Obi-Wan figures, for example, we're going to be getting this year. You're going to get more Book of Boba Fett figures. There's lots and lots for them to do. So it's going to be very difficult to get those figures out this year. Tony Stark says, question for next week. If you have time, Tim, outside of HasLab type ones, which vehicle would you like to see in the Star Wars Vintage Collection box? I've had this question before. It might have been quite a long time ago, but I think my number one want for a OT vehicle is Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. I think that one's long overdue. Then, of course, you've got things like the speeder bike. And if you're looking for something a bit more modern, then Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter as well. I'd absolutely love that in the Vintage collection. Straight Out of Krrsantan says, great video, mate. Wishing all the best for the wife and family. Question for next week. Do you think the Vintage collection is growing quicker than ever before, getting more and more figures into the line? It took a while to go from VC100 to VC200, but it feels like we could get to VC250 by the end of 2022. So yes, absolutely, I do think the vintage collection is riding the wave of a bit more success recently, and that in my opinion is down to two main reasons. The first main reason is the success of The Mandalorian. I think when there's a successful TV show or film, the toys naturally come after that. But then also if you look back at May 2020, when the community kind of rose up and basically asked Hasbro very nicely in the form of a campaign for more vintage collection, more 3.75, I think Hasbro have answered that and they've basically done what we wanted. That doesn't mean to say that we can't stop putting the pressure on. You know, there's still lots more that the vintage collection could do. Rebels figures, Rogue One figures, so many more things. And also, most importantly, when new media comes out, we want the figures in the vintage collection just like the Black Series do. So you only have to look at the Bad Batch and the fact that we didn't get those, that we're still lagging behind. So come on Hasbro, you know what to do. Give 3.75 a chance. Let's get it on an even keel. Patreon supporter B. Brigman says, question for next week. With the release of the Disney Parks Droid Factory Mandalorian 4-pack spotted on eBay, do you think we'll ever see these figures released in the vintage collection? Great episode. Glad to hear that the missus is home and on the mend. Happy 2022. So this is a difficult one, isn't it? Because we've almost got to understand the relationship between Lucasfilm, Disney and Hasbro and who makes what. Because obviously Disney do have their own stuff that they make, like those Droid Factory things. And whether Hasbro have the intention to make a ferry droid, for example, as well on a vintage card, I don't know. Maybe because the Disney parks have done it, they just don't need to because they kind of work hand in hand on that kind of thing. I'm all for Disney doing this in terms of what they put out in the parks in those 4-packs, if the figures are of a good standard, and from what I can see they are. I do have one of those packs on the way, so I look forward to reviewing it. Callum Cattell says, question for next week, do you think they will feature Bossk in the Book of Boba Fett in any way? All I can say, mate, is that I really, really do hope so, but only like a cameo role, one episode, something like that. You know, I don't want them to overdo it with Bossk. I think he's pretty cool the way he is. We've seen lots of Trandoshans in it already, so maybe they're teeing it up for, you know, the big bad Bossk to arrive. That would be flipping awesome. Jeffrey Horner says, great video, Bossk, and best wishes to you and your family. Question for next week. After watching the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett, I can't wait for a Book of Boba Fett wave in the vintage collection. Which figures are you hoping for in that first wave? Me personally, I'm looking forward to seeing the different sand people that find Boba and the mayor's spokesman. Yeah, that spokesman, he's a bit weird, isn't he? But in terms of my answer, there will be spoilers for episode 2. So if you haven't seen episode 2 already, then, you know, switch off now or jump forward a little bit. But basically, after watching episode 2, I could name maybe 10 figures already that I would love to see in the vintage collection. I'm just going to give you a few now because I will be making a video on my most wanted Book of Boba Fett figures. I might wait a couple of episodes to see who else arrives in it. But first and foremost, we need Black Krrsantan. I mean, I've known about this Wookiee for ages, reading the comics and things like that, but to see him in live action, and he did have the scar as well, so it is Black Krrsantan. He would be awesome as a figure, as would the two main sand people, so the main sort of shaman guy or the guy in charge, and also the warrior, who seems to be a female character. So there's 3 for you straight away, but of course there's loads of others. A Gamorrean guard, like the new style Gamorrean guards, I'd love one of them as well. 8D8, the list goes on. Whit Anderson says, having seen the Bith musician appear in the Book of Boba Fett, I'm wondering if this is figuring Dan and if we might get him on the Book of Boba Fett card back in the vintage collection. Curious if you have thoughts on that. I'm also predicting a drummer and card dealer droid as a Disney park exclusive. So I think we do already know that it is going to be Figuring Dan. I think they revealed it as being named Figuring Dan, and that to me points to that it will be on a Star Wars card, but who knows, you know, they might want to push the Book of Boba Fett even more, and now he's been in that, or a Bith has been in that, they might want to put him on a Book of Boba Fett card. I personally think that would look a little bit odd. I mean, at the end of the day, they are most famous for the Mos Eisley Cantina, aren't they, in Star Wars A New Hope, so I would imagine they would put him on a Star Wars card. Sage's Banana Time says, question for next week, what is your relationship with Hasbro like? I know you get to be on those live streams, but are you able to give feedback and let them know what figures the community wants? I feel like there's a lot of want for the Republic Commandos, and it's a figure that lends itself well for repaints and repacks if it's well made. So in terms of my relationship with Hasbro, I guess I wouldn't describe it as a relationship. At the end of the day, I'm a content creator, and yeah, you're right, I get to go on those Q&As. The questions that we submit on those Q&As have to be to do with the most recent reveals. You can't just sort of ask them about distribution, or some people try and get questions in like that, but mainly they have to be about recent reveals. And then they use that information for feedback and things like that. Of course, I can give them feedback through their PR company. Whether they actually read it or anything like that, I don't know. But what I do know is that people from Hasbro are actively looking on forums like rebelscum.com and things like that, Yakface forums. So they do kind of listen to the fans, and I guess there's opportunities to ask them questions. Things like, I don't know, like the other week there was the incorrect price for the 4-pack on the UK Hasbro Pulse website, and they ended up fixing that. So that's the kind of sort of thing we can do. But no, I don't have somebody at Hasbro that I can just sort of ring up or talk to on social media and ask questions and give them feedback and things like that. They basically deal through a PR company and they do all that for them. Bill Polk says, question for next week. I've been watching some Star Wars collecting YouTubers who really get into the world building and displaying their figures around ships and dioramas. With the Razor Crest shortly on its way, do you have any interesting display plans for your Razor Crest when it arrives? Cheers to you. So not immediately, because I'm not going to have a space to sort of set it up with a diorama and what have you, but definitely when I move rooms, which should be hopefully the middle of this year, and I have a bigger collecting room, then most definitely that will be one of the centerpieces, as with the barge. I definitely want to get the barge set up with both skiffs and maybe even the Sarlacc pit and things like that. And the same will go for the Razor Crest. I want that out. It would probably revolve around lots of off-world Jawas and things like that, maybe even taking it apart. But yeah, I can't wait for it. But first and foremost, I can't wait to get the thing and review it. And Robinster says, wish you and your wife all the best. Question for next week. I started collecting TVC late last year and missed the Razor Crest boat. Do you think they will ever reissue or make available again for purchase given its success? Saw your vid on the social media posts and it looks awesome. So unfortunately, the fact that it was a HasLab campaign, I really can't see them reissuing it or, you know, putting it out there again anytime soon, because that kind of just undermines the whole business model of HasLab. You know, essentially you back it, you get it. If you don't, you don't, unfortunately. Having said that, you never know what's going to happen in 5-10 years time, and they want to reissue something like that. They may well do, but essentially at the moment it was a one and done thing, and that's what they said about the barge. So I guess that's the same for the Razor Crest. Alright then guys, that's it for another episode of Ask Boss Bounty. Thank you so much for watching, and an extended thank you to my channel members and Patreon supporters. Your support means a great deal to me, so thank you so much. Don't forget to drop a like on this video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hoping to hit 20,000 subscribers in the next couple of months. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe to the channel, and we shall see you on the next one.